Musician is not committed to the house,
Okay.
the vision of the house, and they're not willing to stay, are they actually stealing from the bank account?
Hmm.
But also, I'm on the other side though, because a lot of churches don't actually pay their musicians
Hmm.
a livable wage.
Right.
And musicians, most of the time, the reason that they're moving is not necessarily because their heart is not sincere. It's because this is how they paying their bills.
Yeah. I think that's where. So let me speak on that real quick.
So that's my thing with a lot of churches, in terms of a livable wage. That because I've done the same thing. The average church musician probably makes anywhere from three, black church musicians. We're talking specifically black church musicians. Probably makes anywhere on the high end $300 to $500 a Sunday. Now, when you get into like some of the bigger churches, in black churches and stuff, you might see 750. I've known musicians to make up to 1,200 a Sunday, but you have to even ask yourself in this day and in this day and time, in this economy, in Trump's internet, is that a livable wage? You know what I mean? Like, can you live? And that, again, that goes back to regional. Like, if you're living in Mississippi, $1,000 a week is gonna like set you up really nice. But if you're living in Cali, $1,000 a week is not gonna like do much. That's basically gas and lunch money. You know what I mean? Or New York or someplace like that where it's like super expensive to live. That's a whole different story. But even still, the same mean average for musicians is pretty much the same. You know what I mean? Guys, let me know what you guys are making if comfortable telling that. But I grew up, I think I never made in my home church, I never made more than like think the max I made there was like 500 a week before taxes. They took out taxes. So, before taxes was 500 on paper, but I took home like four and some change after taxes and the insurance and all of that stuff. So, um, there's that. But then when I moved to Charlotte, different city, bigger church, uh, I was making probably around 2,500 a month ish. Like divide that by 4 weeks, 4 to 5 weeks in a month. That kind of gives you the, whatever that breakdown is per week. So a little bit more than 500 bucks a week, maybe six something. I don't know, whatever that turns out to on paper or whatever. So um, that's one aspect of it. Like, the whole livable wage thing is a good question, and I stand on the fact that if you're a church, like I said earlier, if you're a church that generates revenue, you bring in revenue, then services should be paid, for services rendered. You know what I mean? Like if you pay that electrician, you would pay that person that was doing that thing. But let's see what else they got to say.
If a musician comes and they're like, man, none of us get paid, but it was our choice. The reality is you knew you wasn't gonna get paid.
When you came in.
When you came
Right.
in, you didn't have to get on the stage. You see what I'm saying? But you following God, and now you following God, and you saying, okay, like, I'm following God now. I feel like I gotta get paid.
Now that's a different conversation in and of itself. Like if you joined up with a space and as I say in business, you don't get what you want, you get what you negotiate. And if you didn't negotiate those terms up front for payment, and you did this as, I just want to volunteer, I just want to play for the church, no charge. But then you get into it and figure out it's more work than what it is. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with having a conversation, and wanting to be fairly compensated. But if you bought into that thing, or bought into that vision, or bought into that, um, that church, that ministry, and you volunteered, that's a different question. And there's so many different. I know some pastors could probably comment on that, sort of thing of like what they look for in terms of, paying a musician or what have you. But I think if there's a reasonable amount of money coming into the ministry, then and the pastor is taking a reasonable salary. Like I've seen a church where, the pastor is bringing in like six figures a year, but not even paying the musician five figures a year. I've seen that scenario a whole lot. And if you're so top heavy there, but you're not taking care of the people who are literally grinding and, carrying your vision, that's a problem. It's a huge problem. So, you know, that's just kind of my take on that. You all want to thank you for making it to the end of this video. First of all, thank you for watching to the end. If you made it to the end, make sure you hit the like button, hit the share button, drop a comment, and let me know what you think about everything that I've talked about. And make sure you check out the Patreon link down below. Hop over there for some exclusive content. All right. I'll talk to you guys on the next one. I'm out. Holla at your boy.